When the impossible turns possible, it is never by accident. It is always by the permission of the Almighty, by His decree and His mercy. My brothers and sisters, how many times in our lives have we stood at the edge of despair, feeling as though nothing ahead of us could ever change, and yet by the will of Allah, something opened, a door we did not expect, a path we never imagined. This is the story of faith, of conviction, of hope tied with effort. And it is this journey that teaches us that what seems out of reach is often closer than we think, if only we believe and continue to strive. The heart of a believer is not meant to sink in hopelessness. It is meant to hold on even when the world seems to collapse. The heart whispers, "My Lord is greater, my Lord is capable." And when the lips echo that whisper in prayer, when the limbs confirm it through hard work, then the impossible begins to shift into the possible. Life is not about waiting for miracles without moving. Life is about moving with trust, and in that movement, miracles unfold. There are moments when a person faces mountains, challenges so heavy they feel impossible to climb. Yet with every small step, every drop of effort, the mountain begins to look different. The believer doesn't measure the mountain by its height, but by the strength of the one who can move mountains. This conviction keeps you going when logic says to stop. This hope keeps you breathing when despair tells you to give up. And slowly, slowly, the impossible starts to melt away. Each one of us has experienced setbacks. Perhaps you wanted something so badly, you worked for it, and yet you failed. Perhaps you prayed, and it didn't happen the way you wanted. At that moment, the whisper of hopelessness enters, telling you that it is over. But Allah reminds us in His wisdom that sometimes the thing we wanted so badly would have harmed us, so He protected us by withholding it. And sometimes He delays it to teach us patience, to strengthen our faith, so that when it comes, we are ready to receive it with gratitude. You see, hope without effort is just a wish. Effort without hope is just exhaustion. But when you tie them together, you create a bridge between the seen and the unseen. That bridge is conviction. Conviction that Allah hears your whispers. Conviction that your sweat is not wasted. Conviction that your tears are counted. Conviction that your prostration is never ignored. This conviction turns your every move into worship. Even when you fail, it counts. Even when you stumble, it counts. Because Allah sees the journey, not just the destination. The stories of those who came before us are filled with this truth. People who faced the darkest nights but kept their candles of faith burning. People who stood alone yet did not abandon conviction. Their struggles show us that the impossible bends when you bend your ego, when you surrender your heart to Allah, when you keep walking with hope and effort. The world will tell you it is over. The world will say it cannot be done. But the believer whispers to the heart, Allah is able. And that whisper grows into strength. That strength grows into action. And that action creates change. My brothers and sisters, your dua is never wasted. Your effort is never forgotten. Allah has written every sigh, every hardship, every sacrifice. And sometimes the impossible is not that it changes around you, but that it changes within you. Sometimes the greatest miracle is not the mountain moving, but your heart learning to climb it with peace. So when you feel like stopping, remind yourself the one who plays the trial knows the exit. The one who plays the difficulty knows the relief. And the one who allowed you to face the impossible is the same one who can open doors in ways you never imagined. Your job is not to dictate when or how. Your job is to continue with patience, with sincerity, with effort, and to never lose hope. There will always be a moment where the believer looks back and says, Subhanallah, I thought it was over, yet here I am. And in that moment, you realize that your tears, your struggles, your nights of prayer, your countless attempts, all of it became the ladder that lifted you from despair to relief. The impossible turns possible not when you are strongest, but when you are most sincere, not when you have everything in your hands, but when you raise those hands to Allah and say, "You are my hope, you are my strength." That is when the doors you never thought existed begin to open. When we talk about hope, it is not a passive feeling. It is not simply sitting back and saying something good will happen. Hope in the life of a believer is an active state. It pushes you to keep making dua, to keep making an effort, to keep believing even when the results are hidden. It is a light that Allah places in the chest of a servant, a light that refuses to go out even when storms rage. There will be times when people around you will not understand. They will ask, "Why do you still try? Why do you still pray? Why do you still carry on when it seems impossible?" And the answer is simple: because Allah is greater than impossibility itself. What seems unreachable to human eyes is completely within His control. He is the owner of time, the controller of circumstances, the one who creates from nothing. So how can we ever give up when we know He is able? But the secret lies in balance. You do not place all your trust in effort alone, nor do you abandon effort and wait for divine intervention without moving. You walk with both feet. One step is effort, the other step is reliance upon Allah, and with each step you move forward. That is how believers cross valleys that look impossible to cross. That is how hearts survive losses that seem unbearable. Every breath you take in hardship is recorded. Every tear you shed in prayer is noticed. Every time you withhold yourself from complaining to people and instead complain to Allah, it is honored. You may think no one sees you, no one knows your private struggles, but Allah is fully aware. He is closer than your jugular vein, and His mercy is greater than your pain. Sometimes the impossible that becomes possible is not a worldly achievement, but a change in your soul. Perhaps you thought you could never forgive someone, yet Allah softens your heart and you forgive. Perhaps you thought you could never overcome a bad habit, yet Allah grants you strength to quit. Perhaps you thought you would never heal from a wound, yet Allah replaces the wound with wisdom. These are miracles too, even if the world doesn't celebrate them, the angels record them. Do not underestimate the small steps you take, waking up for Fajr even when tired, resisting a sin when tempted, giving a coin in charity when you hardly have anything. These are seeds, and when you plant seeds with sincerity, Allah makes gardens grow where you never imagined. The impossible is not always about grand victories, but about the hidden victories of the heart, victories that no one else sees, yet they transform your life. My brothers and sisters, Allah reminds us in the Quran that He does not burden a soul beyond what it can bear. That means if you are carrying something today, no matter how impossible it feels, know that Allah has already measured your strength. He has already equipped you with the tools to endure, even if you cannot see them yet. The test is not meant to break you, it is meant to polish you. It is meant to turn you back to Him, to help you realize that the greatest power you hold is in surrender. Surrender is not weakness, surrender is strength, because it frees you from the illusion of control. It allows you to say, "Oh Allah, I will do my best, but the outcome is in your hands." And when you live like this, the burden becomes lighter. You walk with hope instead of despair, with patience instead of frustration, with gratitude instead of complaint. Many times in life, what we thought was the end was actually a beginning. The door that closed was a protection. The delay we hated was a preparation. The hardship we cried through was the training ground for a future we couldn't yet see. This is the way of Allah's mercy. He knows what we do not know. He sees what we cannot see, and He writes our stories with wisdom, not with haste. Think of the many times in your own life when you thought you could not go on, you thought the pain would never end, and yet here you are today, listening, breathing, living. What does that tell you? That tells you the impossible has already happened for you many times. You just did not realize it in the moment.
Allah carried you through what you thought you could never survive. That is proof that He can do it again, no matter what lies ahead. So never underestimate dua. Dua is not a last resort. It is the believer's first weapon. It is a rope that connects you directly to your Creator. Sometimes the dua is answered immediately. Sometimes it is answered differently. Sometimes it is stored for you in the hereafter, waiting for you as a reward so immense that you will be grateful. It wasn't answered here, but in all cases, dua is never wasted. Every time you raise your hands, the most merciful responds in a way that is best for you. And never underestimate effort. You may think your work is insignificant, your sacrifices unnoticed, but Allah is the one who multiplies a single good deed 10 times, 70 times, or even more. What feels small to you is immense in His scale. So keep planting seeds, keep making attempts, keep moving forward. The impossible turns possible, not because of who you are, but because of who Allah is. He is Al-Fatah, the opener of doors. He is Al-Qadir, the one fully able. He is Ar-Rahman, the most merciful. When you know your Lord by His names and attributes, you stop seeing walls and you start seeing doors. You stop seeing impossibility and you start seeing opportunity. So walk with that faith. Let it carry you when your body feels weak. Let it remind you when your mind is clouded. Let it comfort you when your heart is heavy. Because faith is not about knowing how the story will end. It is about trusting the author of the story, and He never disappoints those who trust Him. My beloved brothers and sisters, life is a journey of moments where impossibility stands tall before us, but with faith, with hope, and with sincere effort, those impossibilities bend by the permission of Allah. Every hardship carries within it the seed of ease. Every darkness is followed by dawn, and every prayer whispered from a sincere heart is treasured by the most merciful. Remember, your role is to keep trying, to keep believing, to keep turning to Allah even when nothing makes sense. The Almighty does not abandon those who call upon Him. The doors will open at the right time, in the right way, by His perfect wisdom. So walk away from despair, replace it with conviction, stand firm in your efforts, and most importantly, never lose your connection with Allah, because when He is with you, the impossible will always turn possible. May Allah grant us hope that never fades, patience that never breaks, and conviction that never dies, and may He write for us relief in our trials, light in our darkness, and success in both worlds. Amen.